Hi, I'm Stephanie, and this is Texas Peach Knits. I'm so glad that you could join me today. It's April the 15th. It's a beautiful day in Texas, a little humid, and we are starting to have that transitional time from when it is cold to when it is warm. And right now is the time to be outside and enjoying the beautiful spring weather, but with that comes all the allergies. And in Texas, I don't know about other parts of the US, we have lots of like cold and hot, and the weather just can't decide what it is going to do. But right now, it is warm and it is humid, so lots of moisture in the air. I have been very busy this past month with Easter. I hope everyone that celebrates Easter had a beautiful Easter Sunday. We were mostly sick as a family. I feel like every time I've come on for a podcast, I've said that we have been sick, but it seems like this spring we have caught every cold, and sometimes that's just the way it is. So everyone is doing well now, and my voice is still somewhat recovering, but I'm feeling a lot better. During this past couple of weeks, I've been rekindling my love of spinning. So I have been doing a lot of spinning, and I can't wait to show you everything I have spun. And I have been very disjointed with my knitting. So there is nothing finished. I have cast on things. I feel like my knitting life is crazy right now. So bear with me. I'm going to show you all the things. So first, for spinning, I had a 2 if by hand grab bag. This is 2 if by hand, and they are a couple of women who died together. That's where the 2 comes from in their name. And when I was at the DFW Fiber Fest, I believe back in 2018, I purchased grab bags from them. It's basically a mix of a lot of different colors and fibers that they have dyed, and I really love their dyeing style, and it's a lot of fun, so I thought, why not get the grab bags and try a little bit of everything. So previously, I had spun a bunch of it, and these are the 2 skeins I had spun. And my goal with this was that I wanted to spin it somewhat thin, and I divided the fibers into warm and cool tones. So I spun all the warm tones together, and I spun all the cool tones together, and then I plied those 2 singles together. So every strand is a mix of warm and cool. So you can kind of see how it's reds mixed with greens or blues. And I have no idea how this will knit up, but I'm excited about it. And then I had stalled on this project like I do, and so I still had some of the grab bags left over. I hadn't spun them in a very long time, and so I decided to go ahead and take care of that last bit. And so this is my 3rd skein that I spun. This one ended up being slightly thicker than these 2 were. I don't think it's drastically different, but it's still those warm and cool tones plied together. And I'm really glad I decided to spin these first because I hadn't spun since last summer and I was a little rusty. It's amazing how quickly you get rusty, so I felt like this was a good getting back into spinning. So this skein is 165 yards. I lost my scale. I have no idea where it is. I bet a child walked off with it, so I can't weigh it to see how much it weighs. And I can't find my records. I don't even know if I have records of how many yards are in these, but I assume they're more than 165 because they're spun slightly thinner. So this is going to make something amazing. I don't know what. Probably a shawl? I don't know. I'm really excited to knit with them though, because I think they're going to be stunning. So then after my 2F by hand, I decided to spin a gradient that I had purchased at Rhinebeck. I believe I went to Rhinebeck in 2000. I think I went in 2016 because I was pregnant with my youngest child. He was, oh look, there's my dog. Do you see him? My youngest child was born in 2017 and I was pregnant with him. So it would have been 2016 that I was in Rhinebeck. And I purchased a Still River Mill. I can't find the label. It was called a graduated color bump. It was 4 ounces, 90% merino, and 10% silk. And basically, it looked like a center pole bat or a center pole, yarn cake, but strands of fiber. So I don't know what it's called when the merino, when the wool is just in like little straight, thin strands instead of being like in a braid, but that's how it was. So if you know what that's called, please enlighten me. But it started with a white center, and I'll share a picture, a white center that went to a dark green teal color. And I decided to spin this relatively thin because that's how I spin. I spin on an Ashford Traveler double drive, and it's really easy to spin thin, and it's not as easy for me now to spin thicker. So I spun it thin, and then I decided to chain ply or Navajo ply the fiber so that it became a 3-ply but kept the gradient all together. So this is my first skein. And you can see how it starts out with this really light whitish color, white green. And then it goes into a pastel green and then gets into like a medium teal green. And this skein is 112 yards, and it's not exactly half. So since I had lost my scale, I couldn't weigh it, so I just split it where I thought. This is the second one, and it goes from that medium color to slightly darker, and then to this darkest teal color. So this is a Navajo chain ply. So it's a nice round yarn. So I have not soaked this yet. It might plump up more when I soak it. Because it has that 10% silk, I feel like it just has a really beautiful texture. And so I'm going to wash this, and I have learned that I should thwack it, which if you don't know what thwacking is, it's when you take the loop of yarn and you just like bang it against something, and evidently that sets the ply. I've never done it before, but interested to try that. It was always my plan to spin this and another braid of fiber to then knit together. And what my plan is to start with the light color in maybe some kind of triangular or crescent shaped shawl, and then knit through to the darkest color, and then have this braid This one's a little fuzzy. This is a Superwash Merino braid by Dawning Dreams. And I purchased this at the DFW Fiber Fest in 2018, I believe. And that's how I like to purchase my fiber, is at festivals. I'm almost certain I've almost never ordered fiber online. So far, I've been able to pick it up in person. So I'm going to spin this one the same way, one ply, and then chain ply it, and then I'll use it as the bottom, or like the widest portion of the shawl. But I don't have a pattern yet. This is all just hypothetical. Also related to spinning is this next project that I started. It's with the yarn that I spun last summer, my Malabrigo Nube, this really old tag in the Plomo colorway. And I spun this last summer. This is all the Plomo, gray on gray, 2-plied. And then I also have a 2-ply with the Plomo and an undyed Polworth. And I really wanted to knit a Shetland shawl with this, so I am knitting from Country Weekend Knits by Madeline Westin, which this is a lovely book. It's got beautiful pictures and lots of interesting patterns. I'm knitting the old shell Shetland shawl. And right now I'm knitting this ruffle edge, because you start from the outside, you knit the borders, and then you pick up the inner part, as you can see in this diagram. So like outside first, and then knit the center. I've never knit something with this construction before. So this is just the dark gray Plomo. And it has not been blocked. I'm still knitting it. So, but it is quite long, and I haven't even finished one edge yet. So, but my hopes was that this would be a very large shawl, and it looks like it will be. So all the outside ruffle border will be this dark gray, and then I'll be using this lighter color for the entire center portion and some of the lace on the other border. But my plan is to pick some. I have this huge bag of Knit Picks palette. I want to pick a few of these to use in the stripes in the lace. I'm pretty certain I want to use this corally pink color. This is called Rosehip. And I don't know which other ones I want to use. So I want to make sure they stand out. So I don't want to use like this purple, because I feel like that would just mix in. But I don't know. I'm going to have to lay out a few options. And when I get to that point, I'll probably share a picture on Instagram of a few different options and see if I can get some advice. So that's just my big bag of palette I've collected. So this is going to be an ongoing project. While knitting this Shetland shawl, I have been trying out these Knitter's Pride cubics, which are the wooden square needle tips on their interchangeables. So it's this little set, the Knitter's Pride Combi interchangeable set. I don't hate the square needles. I think they're fine. I'm not a huge fan of wooden needles because I feel like they slow me down a little bit. And I have found that the cords with these are a little sticky. So like They're kind of more rubbery, and it's great if you don't want your stitches falling off, but it does make them move a little bit slower, which with this project, it's not a big deal because it's just a few stitches on the needle. So if you're in the market for interchangeables, the joins and everything on these are nice. I'm just not sure I'm a fan of the cords. In my haphazard knitting, I have been working on clothing for my children's knitted animal friends. So I made these in, I believe I made them in 2020. I might have made them in 2021. I made 4 of them so that each of my children could have one. And I made them out of Hobby Lobby Yarn Bee, the baby bee, and I don't remember the exact, it's the main baby bee line where it's kind of like a sport weight yarn. So I made this cat. My daughter wanted kind of different color paws and the white blaze on the chest. And I also made the dog for my youngest, and their heads are kind of wonky. I don't know how to fix that, so if you've made these and you know how to make, I wondered if like making the clothes makes them stand up better. So here's Spot the dog, and this has been very well loved. I made the fox, also with the blaze chest. And my older son wanted the squirrel. So here's the squirrel. Solid feet. And he has the 2-color chest. So I started making the clothes, and these little pants are so funny. These are the squirrel's pants that have this cable. And these are knit out of Knit Picks Comfy Fingering Weight. So, and I bought some little tiny buttons for putting all the clothes together, but I didn't sew them on. I ended up just stitching this closed, and it can still come off, but those are the only clothing items that I've done so far. So here's my Knit Picks Comfy, and I went ahead and bought the colors I needed for all the different clothing items. And I'm going to slowly work my way through clothes for these little creatures. So the second one I'm working on is the little blue jeans for the dog. And I'm using some leftover denim looking sock yarn. And this is all I have. So these are knit on size 2 US needles. And as you can see, they're knit flat. And then I believe they're joined in the round after the place where the little buttons. It's got like a little tiny button band with little tiny buttonholes. So these are going very slowly, but they're one of the many things that I've been working on. So, and this book is by Louise Crowther, and it's an awesome, awesome book. The little critters are just so cute, and the little clothes, I mean, look at this adorable little pig sweater, are just so detailed and cute. So, I mean, if you like knitting tiny fiddly things, here's the squirrel outfit. So I made these pants, but I made them in the green, And then I think he wants a red tie and a blue vest. So he's going to be a little different. And my squirrel is the gray squirrel because in Texas we have gray squirrels, not red squirrels. The next update I have is my Acorn Trail sweater by Amy Herzog. Just this beautiful cabled sweater out of worsted weight yarn. I'm using size 6 US needles, my absolute favorite needles, which are the Zing. These are Knitter's Pride Zing needles. So they're attached, they're not interchangeable. And I completely finished I've talked about this in several podcasts, so I won't share everything. I've completely finished the back, and I have completely finished both sides of the front. I'm using Wool of the Andes Brass Heather, and I am working on the sleeve. So the sleeve is knitted flat and then seamed. It has this long section of twisted 1x1 rib, which looks nice, but was not fun to knit. And then now I am in the endless increasing and stockinette. So I think they're supposed to be 3/4 sleeves, but in the pictures they're always pushed up, so they might be long. I really don't know. I was thinking that I don't really know how they're going to turn out, so I'm just going to follow the pattern, and I'm knitting the size 42.5. So that is where I am on that. I've been working on my sock project. This is my go-to traveling knit, so it gets worked on a lot. I had finished one sock. I'm planning to give these to my cousin who's getting married in the fall, and I'm going to make a pair for her husband as well, or her fiance. I made a mistake. So this one, I was really careful about where I split for the heel because I wanted to have the pattern on the top to be completely balanced on both sides. And so it's a 4-stitch repeat pattern, and so I have a group of 2 on the top of the front of the foot, and then it goes to the 4, 4, 4, 4 until the other side where there's 2. And this one, I didn't do that. I don't know why. So I just didn't do that, and I'm not going to rip back because I would have to take the heel out, and I'm just going to assume that my cousin will not notice. We'll see. So I've got these, and I think Emily of Woldenburn and I are going to do a sock knit along in May because we both bought the same pattern sock yarn at Hobby Lobby. Not 100% sure she still wants to do that, so Emily, let me know if you still want to do that. And then anybody else who bought I believe it's like the Midnight Orchid colorway, and of course I didn't bring it in here today. If anybody wants to join us, if you have a Midnight Orchid colorway in the Patons Kroy sock yarn, we will be knitting ourselves socks in May for Mother's Day. So, speaking of mothers, I am making tons and tons of baby gifts. This is part of my Make 9. 3 of my friends have now had their babies, and they were not finding out what they were having, and they all had boys. So I've been making a lot of girl things because I have this precious pink yarn. So I've now put this project on hold, and I'm going to switch to more boyish projects. So this is the Leaf Love Baby Sweater by Taiga Hillard, and I'm knitting it out of the Sprightly yarn, which was a clearance deal on Love Crafts. The Leaf Love Baby Sweater is supposed to have this lace all the way down the front, but I was getting tired of reading the chart and I just wanted to knit. So I put in this little waistband myself and then just went for it. So this is all the way complete except for the sleeves. So I'll put the sleeves on later because I have switched to boy knitting. Now, the pattern I chose to start with was not on my Make 9. I was going to do the stacked staghorn baby sweater, which is a free pattern, but once I was reading the pattern, I thought it wasn't quite as clear as I wanted. I'm sure I could figure it out, but I decided it was easier to just pick something else. So I picked this baby Poonam by Norah Gaughan. It's a free pattern on the Barocco website. It calls for Comfort DK, but I am knitting the 6-month size in worsted weight, and then I'm hoping that it will fit a like 9-month baby in winter. And most of my things always turn out big, so I think it'll be fine. So I've just started the back, and it has this beautiful texture pattern on the back. So this is a 4-row repeat texture pattern, just knits and purls, and this is the back side of the sweater. So I'm also knitting this out of the Sprightly yarn, but in the Ecru colorway. So I'm going to knit that, and then I will see what I do next. So I think that is all of my projects that I have worked on today for this month, and I wanted to share. Now I don't have a frugal find, so I wanted to share some of my favorite knitting podcasts to watch, because that's the main reason that I started making a knitting podcast, is because I like watching them. So I decided to share the knitting podcasts that have either barely 1,000 subscribers or they have less than 1,000 subscribers. So the first one I'm going to share is the Night Owl Fibers podcast. This is by Rachel and her mother, Brenda, and they live in Texas, about 4 hours from me. And Rachel dyes self-striping sock yarn, so she'll show yarn she's been dyeing for her shop. And Brenda is just lovely, and she's always, Rachel's always telling about her things, and then Brenda will ask really helpful questions. So it's really nice to have the back and forth of the mother and daughter on the podcast. The next one I've enjoyed watching is Pearled in Texas, and that is 3 women in San Antonio, Carrie, Elizabeth, and Melissa. And the 3 of them get together and show their projects. They're always wearing beautiful sweaters that they have made, and they show their projects and any yarn acquisitions that they have gotten. And I believe they also have sock crankers to like knit socks quickly, which I find very interesting. And then Willow Cove Crafts, which is Emily, and she's in Wisconsin, and she has such a beautiful color aesthetic and picks just the absolute beautiful patterns. She really knits very fine-tuned things. Like, she is not a quick get-it-done knitter. She is very detail-oriented, and I really enjoy her podcast. And then I also already mentioned Emily from Woldenburn. She is a Tennessee knitter, and she has a baby son, and she, I think I've told her that she reminds me of myself 15 years ago when I was starting to have kids. and she just likes a lot of the same things I like books and thrifting and yarn, of course. So very fun. Next is Cafe Bean Counter Knits, and this is Jessica, who is in Phoenix, Arizona, and she knits just the coolest sock colorways I have seen, and she loves coffee, which I also love, so I enjoy watching her podcasts. And I have a sister in Arizona, so she's not in Phoenix, but feeling like a little close to my sister when I'm watching the Arizona podcaster. Then there is Shauna Stitches, who is in Oregon, and her podcast has been around a while. She spins and knits, and she also keeps track of her yarn quantities that she's bringing in and getting out. So like some stash management stuff, which I find really interesting. And the last one I'm going to share today is Hartleys Handmade, which is Caitlin, and she lives in Georgia, which is where I used to live, and she does a ton of spinning, so I really, really enjoy seeing her beautiful yarns that she makes. So those are some of my favorite podcasts with 1,000 subscribers or less. And so if you need a new podcast to watch, I hope you will check those out. That is all I have for today. I'm sorry if it felt disjointed because that's how my knitting is right now. And I'm also planning for next school year, and the co-op I help organize is in its like registration time, and so there's a lot of like craziness, and I keep getting phone calls from the other leaders as we're setting things up. So there were actually a couple of times mid-podcast where I stopped to take phone calls, and you probably didn't notice, so but everything is going well. I'm glad we're starting to feel better. I talked about us deworming my chickens last time, and it worked because now we are getting up to 20 eggs a day, which is amazing. So I'm trying to do like egg management and make egg things for the freezer and try to learn about preserving eggs with water glassing for the winter, and then also a lot of like those kind of like homesteady things. We planted our garden. I've got my tomatoes growing really great. Our pepper plants were just totally attacked by our chickens, and they ate all the leaves off of them. They're not dead yet, so I'm hoping I will still get some peppers. And just, general springtime things. I planted a whole bunch of sunflower seeds along our fence lines, hoping to get some giant sunflowers to grow this year. And I still need to put in a few more seeds in our garden. I want to grow some cucumbers and a few other things. We're trying to figure out what to grow that we eat and to use the space that we have to the best advantage that we can. So it's every year it is an experiment. So I hope you are having a wonderful spring. Happy April. Have a blessed Easter, and I will see you next month.